Dan Scripps, Chair of the Michigan Public Service Commission, and I call this meeting of the Commission to order on July 27th, 2022 at 1:01 p.m. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chair.
Present.
Philip.
Present.
Present.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Today's meeting, as all of you know, is being held in person at the Cadillac Place at 3044 West Grand Boulevard in Detroit, Michigan, room L150. We're very excited to be here. I think it's one of the first times, at least in a number of years, that we've held a public, a regular meeting of the commission outside of our traditional Lansing confines. So we're excited to be here today. We're also hosting this meeting remotely using Microsoft Live Event. It is compatible with all browsers except Safari. Telephone relay service is available through the phone option. If you are participating via the live stream, you may also turn on the live captions by clicking on the closed caption or CC button in the lower right corner of the screen. As indicated in the notice for today's meeting, if we lose the remote connection, the commission will not recess. We'll continue to hold the meeting in person. The meeting will be recorded and available for future reference on the commission's website. In addition, the commissioners can receive comment via mpsc_commissioners@michigan.gov. For reference, this email is also included in the Q&A feature on the live stream event on your computer and in the meeting notice. We will have an opportunity for the public to make comment as provided in the agenda. A few notes about this. Comments should be limited to one per person and can be made verbally in person or by calling in or in writing via the live stream Q&A feature. If you are participating via Teams application, you can use the Q&A feature and type your comments in the box anytime during our meeting. The Q&A function should be used to submit public comments directed to the commission. If you would like to make verbal comments, you must do so in person or by calling into the meeting by phone. And to minimize disruptions, attendees participating by phone will be muted until we reach the time for public comment. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda for today's meeting. Commissioner Phillips.
Thank you, Chair. I move to amend the proposed agenda for today's commission meeting by removing item 4-B-2, case number U-21248.
I second the motion to amend the proposed agenda.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to amend the proposed agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The motion to amend the proposed agenda is approved. Commissioner Phillips.
I moved for the approval of the amended agenda for today's commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on this? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve today's amended agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The agenda as amended is approved. The next item of business on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the July 7, 2022 commission meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the July 7th, 2022 commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the minutes from the July 7, 2022 commission meeting. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries by a unanimous vote. The commission meeting minutes of July 7, 2022. The commission is ably assisted by staff attorney Barb Kunkel. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Good afternoon. Today's consent agenda consists of 4 communications matters, 5 electric matters, and 5 gas matters. The proposed orders and minute actions for these matters have been thoroughly vetted by the Commission's technical and legal staff and are ready for your approval.
Thank you, Ms. Kunkel. I move for the approval of the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The orders and minute actions on the consent agenda are approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A1 is case numbers U-15825 et al., which involve a matter on the Commission's own motion regarding annual reports filed by electric providers providing information describing the action taken by the electric provider to comply with the state of Michigan's renewable energy standards. The order before you requests that the captioned electric providers continue to file annual reports on a voluntary basis as described in this order.
Thank you. I move for the approval of the order in case numbers U-15825 et al.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case numbers U-15825 et al. is approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A2 is case number U-17377, which involves implementation of the provisions of Public Act 95 of 2013. The order before you adopts the funding factor for the Low Income Energy Assistance Fund for 2022 to 2023.
Thank you. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-17377.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on this? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-17377 is approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A3 is case number U-20898, which involves the establishment on the Commission's own motion of the New Technologies and Business Models Work Group. Mike Byrne, the Chief Operating Officer for the Commission, is here to present this order.
Good afternoon. In the October 17th, 2019 order in case number U-20645, in partnership with Governor Whitmer, the Commission established the My Power Grid initiative. My Power Grid is a focused, multi-year stakeholder initiative to maximize the benefits of the transition to clean distributed energy resources, or DERs, for Michigan residents and businesses. The New Technologies and Business Models Work Group was officially launched in the October 29, 2020 order in case number U-20898. The order noted there is the need to adapt the regulatory framework to allow for different applications of DER and to define the appropriate roles of utilities and other entities in supporting a more decentralized energy system that is clean, affordable, reliable, and accessible. It directed the work group to focus on microgrids, electric vehicles, energy storage, distributed energy generation, and space and water heating. The Commission provided information on a number of questions to be explored and directed staff to file a report summarizing efforts to date and to provide recommendations for the Commission's consideration. After 10 workgroup meetings with numerous stakeholders representing a wide spectrum of organizations, on December 1st, 2021, the staff issued a report and recommendations. First, staff recommended the Commission provide guidance on what just rates entail when evaluating new technologies and alternative business models. Second, staff recommended the Commission require benefit cost analysis when considering new pilots and to include the costs and benefits related to just rates in such analyses. Third, staff recommended the Commission support data-driven decision-making. Fourth, staff proposed an expedited pilot review for innovative pilots intended to support the rapid transformation of the energy system needed to meet overarching state goals. Fifth, staff recommended the Commission support the development of alternative business and ownership models by establishing a comment proceeding to consider legal and regulatory barriers to utility ownership of behind-the-meter distributed energy resources, as well as a few other recommendations on that front. Sixth, staff recommended technology and fuel agnostic incentives and rates be developed. Seventh, staff recommended the Commission support pilots of tariffed on-bill investment programs and explore financial incentives and disincentives on new technologies and business models and beneficial uptake of DERs. Eighth, staff recommended the Commission recognize the importance of education in the uptake of new technologies and business/ownership models with suggested practices. Finally, staff recommended the Commission chart a clear path supporting rapid new technology and business ownership model learnings in Michigan with several items. In the order before you today, by and large, the Commission agrees with staff's central recommendation of taking action on items and recommendations resulting from the My Power Grid work streams. The Commission reiterates that its focus is on action and in this order points to specific opportunities to explore further and adopt certain changes, including encouraging parties to provide evidentiary support to develop the record necessary for the Commission to fully evaluate issues around just rates in individual cases, setting an expectation that all pilot proposals present a benefit cost analysis, which includes a utility cost test and a proposed societal cost test, and directing investor-owned utilities to file proposed Michigan-specific uniform BCA requirements, including a proposed societal cost test that could be used in multiple types of dockets, including pilot proposals, distribution planning, and rate cases no later than September 1st, 2022. Establishing a comment period for interested persons to weigh in on the proposed expedited pilot process, as well as consideration, among other issues, of the legal and regulatory barriers to utility ownership of behind-the-meter distributed energy resources, encouraging utilities when proposing new rate structures to specify the behavior the proposed rate intends to encourage and the associated grid benefits while being neutral regarding the technology requirements, and including discussion of financial incentives and disincentives on new technologies and business models and beneficial uptake of DERs in an upcoming My Power Grid stakeholder work group focusing on financial incentives and disincentives. The order before you also recognizes this area as a rapidly evolving area and reinforces its commitment to fully realize the goal of My Power Grid to ensure that the energy transition, including the integration of new technologies and business models, ultimately benefits Michigan residents and businesses. Finally, I would note that staff thanks the experts, stakeholders, and tribal nations for their generous time, expertise, and participation throughout the process that supported the depth and breadth of the workgroup learnings, as well as the interagency staff team that supported the workgroup efforts and developed staff's recommendations. I would personally like to express my sincere appreciation for the leadership of Dr. Joy Wong, the staff lead for the New Technologies and Business Models Workgroup and Report. Dr. Wong helped to lead the efforts of 20 MPSC staff members, dozens of experts, and hundreds of stakeholders over 10 meetings, culminating in a 350+ page report with detailed and thoughtful recommendations. I know we all appreciate the leadership she provided, culminating in today's order. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Byrne. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-20898.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to express my thanks to all the staff members throughout the commission who participated in this My Power Grid New Tech and Business Models work group, including Dr. Joy Wong, who led the staff work group, and the official team members of Paul Awesome, Julie Baldwin, Marcy Champion, Al Freeman, Lauren Fromm, Kayla Gibbs, Karen Gould, Shannon Hartman, Megan Koliopoulos, Kevin Kraus, Cody Matthews, Sarah Molkoff, Danielle Rogers, Anna Schiller, Drew Simon, Anna Sterling, Karsten Janer, Dave Walker, and Ryan Yeoman. This was an immense amount of work that touched many different aspects of work that we do at the commission and required a substantial amount of coordination, cooperation, and stakeholder engagement with well over 100 different organizations to get the recommendations presented to us in this 354-page report. I'm excited that we've been able to issue an order today that takes action on advancing the adoption of new technologies and business models that will advance Michigan's competitiveness, sustainability, equity, and reliability as identified by this work group. I'm looking forward to implementing these solutions and continuing the development of the recommendations put forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I would only add, I'd echo all of your comments and the thanks, particularly to the staff, but also to the many stakeholders who participated and added their expertise. I'd also just say that being here in Detroit today, this feels particularly timely when Mr. Byrne went through the list of issues which we charged our staff with investigating. You know, among those were community solar and microgrids among a longer list. And you know, earlier today we had the opportunity to sit down with some of the folks from the East Side Community Network and talk about some of their work on the east side of the city of Detroit, and particularly their focus on developing community solar projects. And then more recently, just before the meeting started, heard about generators being used to support the distribution grid in some localized areas that were experiencing outages. And you begin to think, you know, are there opportunities to deploy microgrids in similar or other situations? So I feel like this order, we didn't time it this way. It's not planned, but really timely for some of the conversations that were taking place here in the city today, and excited to move forward with this. We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-20898 is approved. Recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4A4 is case number U-21234, which involves an application filed by Alpena Power Company requesting ex parte approval to amend its commercial general service tariff to provide extended use of electric vehicle charging stations and related approval. The order before you approves the application.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21234.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
I do have some brief comments to make, Chair. Today's order marks the 5th request for approval of an electric vehicle pilot program. for regulated investor-owned utilities here in the state of Michigan. If approved, the commission would have helped to pave the way for the creation of electric vehicle pilot programs that would be accessible to almost 4.5 million utility customers in the state, or approximately 92% of all ratepayers in Michigan. Though this order only approves the creation of a regulatory asset and demand charge waiver and does not approve the inclusion of expenditures in customer rates, approval will allow for Alpena and by extension residents, businesses, and visitors to the Northeast Lower Peninsula to immediately benefit from and further leverage the millions in state and federal funds being allocated to support EV adoption and deployment. These funds include the $110 million over 5 years of EV infrastructure investment Michigan is expected to receive from the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. In closing, I would just like to thank our staff from throughout the MPSC for their continued due diligence of this and other utility financial and programmatic proposals to support and serve the growing volume of electric vehicles in Michigan. I also applaud the company for working with counterparts at the Upper Peninsula Power Company, or UPCO, in order to receive guidance and seek alignment between their respective electric vehicle pilot programs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any additional discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21234 is approved. I recognize Ms. Kunkel.
Item 4B1 is case number U-20236, involves an application filed by DTE Gas Company seeking authority to reconcile the costs and revenues associated with its gas cost recovery plan for the 12 months ended March 31st, 2020. The order before you approves the application as modified by the order.
Thank you, Ms. Kunkel. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-20236.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-20236 is approved. The next item on today's agenda is a presentation on the Michigan Energy Assistance Program and the Low Income Energy Assistance Fund. And I am excited to introduce Ms. Wanda Claiborne-Jones, who is the manager of our Mdhhs section at the Commission. I recognize Ms. Claiborne-Jones.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. As you mentioned, my name is Wanda Claiborne-Jones, and I am the manager of the Michigan Energy Assistance Program located in the Customer Service Division at the MPSC. As a native Detroiter, I am honored to present information on the Michigan Energy Assistance Program, referred to as MEAP. The MEAP aims to establish and administer programs statewide that provide energy assistance and self-sufficiency services to eligible low-income souls. Self-sufficiency services include participants with the following: paying their energy bills on time, budgeting and contributing to their ability to provide energy expenses for their expenses, which may consist of enrollment into a 24-month affordable payment plan and utilizing energy services to optimize on energy efficiency to help customers lower their bills. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Mdhhs, and the Michigan Public Service Commission have collaborated to deliver the MEAP program since October of 2013. Customers needing emergency assistance must be determined eligible through the State Emergency Relief Program through the application process. This allows for a more collaborative service delivery with the state's resources. The Michigan Public Service Commission distributes the MEAP funds to community agencies who work with customers to pay energy bills and provide the self-sufficiency services they determine are needed. Currently, 9 MEAP grantees work with our community, are referred to as our community partners to serve the 83 Michigan counties. The grantees include 3 United Way organizations, Berry County, South Central Michigan, formerly known as Jackson County, and Southeastern Michigan. the Bureau of Community Action and Economic Opportunity, referred to as BCAEO, in coordination with the community action agencies amongst the state. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul, Superior Watershed Partnership, Salvation Army, the Heat and Warmth Fund, referred to as THAW, and True North. These community partners can also help applicants to navigate the MDHHS's state emergency relief application process. Let me tell you about a few steps to seek assistance. First, you must apply to state emergency relief to determine eligibility for assistance to address your initial energy crisis for each commodity, and that would be gas, electric, or deliverable fuels. You may apply online through MyBridges at newmybridges.michigan.gov, or pick up a paper application at your local MDHHS office, which we also have some in the room today. Once you complete that application, you need to return it to the local DHH office. During the online process, you can be referred to a community action agency to administer the additional MEEP funds and self-sufficiency services. The MEEP assistance can be a one-time payment, or customers of some utilities such as DTE can enroll in an affordable payment plan. Community agencies and some utilities such as DTE can also help customers with filling out that long application. They have been making it shorter. So we want to, but it's so you can have all the thorough resources. It's not just about energy. We're trying to do a holistic approach and identify your needs. If you need help finding a partner, you can also call 211 or my211.org. DHS emergency relief crisis assistance are normally set at a cap of $850 for gas and electric each, or $1,200 for deliverable fuels such as propane. But currently, DHS is temporarily offering an additional $300 for each commodity. So that would make the assistance $1,150 for both gas and electric assistance, and $1,500 for propane. And that guaranteed additional $300 that you can get assistance ends at 9/30/2020 at the end of this grant year. Please note that MEEP grantees may be unable to help you with additional energy payments due to funding running low at the end of the grant year, which again is 9/30, but will be able to provide other helpful resources. And again, as mentioned, 211 will let you know which agencies currently have funding. And to make sure you understand who is providing the funding, DHHS's emergency relief funding comes from the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, which is LIHEAP. MEEP funding, which is $50 million annually, is collected through the Low Income Energy Assistance Fund, referred to as LIHEAP. The funding factor is a surcharge on ratepayers' electric bills for participating utilities. The funding factor shall not exceed $1 monthly and appears as a separate line on each customer's bill. And at today's meeting, the new funding factor was approved at 90 cents. I would like to thank the commissioners for their leadership and actions to refine the mission statement of the commission to identify and address community concerns more impactfully. The commission quickly responded to COVID-19 by issuing Order U-20757, which provided guidance and direction to all parties impacted by COVID and established the Energy Affordability and Accessibility Collaborative. And most recently, in part of Order U-20959, the Commission directed the Customer Education and Participation Work Group to identify areas of focus for customer outreach, education, and participation practices in the regulatory space as a way to voice concerns. Today, you are holding this commission meeting in Detroit, bringing the commission to the community. In addition, you have supported a staff-driven diversity, equity, and inclusion collaborative and hired the MPSC's first diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. These efforts are breaking down barriers to impacted parties as we seek to change the narrative within the energy and telecommunication industries. In the room today, there are MPSC staff who can provide information and handouts on energy assistance available, customer tips on saving energy and safely and staying safe. They can also explain the informal and formal complaint process. The MPSC and MEEP website is continuously being updated to provide this type of useful information and resources to our Michigan citizens at www.michigan.gov/MPSC. We also have a complaint line that you can dial at 1-800-292-9555. And finally, I would like to thank our community partners who help us deliver the Michigan Energy Assistance Program. The Customer Service Division staff is in the position to hear from the community and its partners daily and work with our community to obtain energy security. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clavon Jones, and I want to thank you. And the leadership, you mentioned the response to COVID, but that simply wouldn't have happened without you. And I loved the part where you described them as, I think, my grantees or my partners, because it really is that sort of personal relationship and the trust that you've built with the folks who are on the front lines, working with some of the most vulnerable people in our communities. And it's really important. So we were pleased to approve the order again. And I also want to thank the utilities who participate. It's a voluntary program, and it's important that utilities do participate in that. But I want to thank you for your.
I do have some very brief comments, but I also want to move to the part of I think I'm still on mute, a measurable impact in increasing the eligibility and access to customer energy assistance, which has directly benefited tens of thousands of households across the state of Michigan. So your talents have certainly been put to the test over the last 2 years, as well as to good use. And we just continue to look forward to helping customers as we face a continued global pandemic and some of these historic economic and financial conditions here over the next year.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillips.
Commissioner. I was muted online. We'll take public comments in the following order. First, individuals attending in person. Next, written comments from individuals using the Microsoft Teams live stream Q&A. Then verbal comments from individuals submitting names in the Q&A feature and who have called into the meeting. And finally, from individuals participating only through the phone option. As a reminder, this public comment period is for commissioners to listen to comments and concerns. When providing comment, please indicate your name and where you live if you're willing to share that so that we have it for our records. And please limit comments to one per person and keep them brief, no longer than 3 minutes, so we have a chance to hear from all who would like to comment. If anyone, sorry, I think that we have a number of comment cards. If you have not filled one of these out and would like to comment, you can do so at the table where you arrived, and we'll sort of add you to the list. Our first individual is John Freeman, and I will just try and do these so people know who's on deck. Mary Rulo is on deck. So Representative Freeman, you still get the title, right?
Well, it's very thoughtful of you to be so kind. First of all, I want to thank Chairman Scripps for providing me for the opportunity to speak to you and Commissioner Phillips and Paratek. about the DTE rate case U-20836. And I also want to particularly thank you for holding this meeting in Detroit today. I think it's a wonderful thing you're doing to bring the work you do out of Lansing into Detroit, because so many folks can't make it to Lansing. So the fact that you're reaching out to seeking input from people here in the city, I think is a very admirable thing, and I encourage you to continue to do that. My name is John Freeman, and I live at 28342 Dartmouth Street in Madison Heights, Michigan. And I'm the executive director of the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, otherwise known as GLREA. And I'm also a DTE customer. I come before the commission to urge you to, one, reject DTE's proposal to lower the distributed generation tariff from the current rate of about 8 cents per kilowatt hour to locational marginal price, which is about 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And I also encourage you to reject DTE's proposal for mandatory demand charges on all solar owners. I also want you to reject the whole structure of DTE's distributive energy proposal, that if DTE gets what they're asking for, then they will voluntarily raise the cap from 1% to 3%. We think this is a bad bargain and urge you to reject it. GLREA sees DTE's proposal as an effort to undercut the financial rationale for installing a solar energy system and therefore discouraging homeowners and small businesses from purchasing it. This runs counter to what Governor Whitmer has stated in her Michigan Climate Healthy Plan about, quote, creating more favorable conditions for customer-sited behind-the-meter distributive energy resources like rooftop solar. Chairman Scripps, you have publicly testified to the House Energy Committee that solar owners are not being subsidized by non-solar owners and that there is no economic reason for the continuation of the 1% cap. So I'm here to urge the Public Service Commission to use either your general rate-making authority or two, the authority granted to the Michigan Public Service Commission under the Federal Public Utilities Regulatory Policies Act, in other words, known as PURPA, and Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, regulations, to create a new solar tariff for the outflow of solar electricity that goes back to the grid from solar owners once the 1% cap has been reached. Maybe the Public Service Commission's hands are tied about what you can do regarding distributed generation programs under Michigan's 1% cap law, but no such restraint exists once that 1% cap is reached and that program is no longer in operation. Governor Whitmer also stated in the Michigan Climate Healthy Plan that she wants the state to, quote, continue to develop and refine innovative rate designs to incent behaviors that advance clean energy goals. Creating a post-cap outflow tariff for what solar owners would receive for the extra electricity they export back to the grid is exactly what Governor Whitmer is asking the Michigan Public Service Commission to do. By establishing a post-cap outflow tariff after the 1% cap has been reached in early 2023 for DTE, then the private sector can move forward with complete regulatory certainty in marketing and installing solar and creating lots of new jobs. In addition, the Michigan Public Service Commission, organizations like GLREA, would no longer have to play this thinly veiled extortion game by DTE that if they get what they want, they will voluntarily raise the cap. So I urge you to reject DTE's distributed generation proposals and use your general rate-making authority or the authority delegated to you under PURPA to create a fair outflow tariff that takes effect once the cap has been reached. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
We have Mary Rouleau, and apologies if I get your name wrong, and then Joe Jakubowski.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Rouleau from Grosse Pointe Park. I'm a Sierra Club member and increasingly an environmental activist, and I'd like to also thank you for being here to allow me to speak in person and the rest of us to be here and observe and speak. So right now it feels like our whole planet is on fire in many places, literally. As you've already heard in other forums, and you may hear later today, many will present compelling and irrefutable science-based evidence about why the Enbridge Line 5 application should and must be denied. I was wondering about how to add to their voices. Then this weekend, I read an op-ed in the New York Times about the potential for oil exploration in the Congo rainforest and how that would be an ecological disaster. So toward the end of the piece, the author, who's a professor of global change science, said, and I'm quoting, countries, including the United States, should call their counterparts in Congo to explain how disastrous this plan to drill for rainforest oil really is. But it struck me that if we are to save our planet, and if America is to play a key role, and we must, we can only do this by showing that we too are capable of making the hard choices in our own backyards. And that means using the power we have. And that took me on a search for a good quote or description, and I found this, which I'd like to share, and I'm quoting. We in this country, in this generation, are by destiny rather than choice, the watchmen on the walls of world freedom. We ask, therefore, that we may be worthy of our power and responsibility, that we may exercise our strength with wisdom and restraint, and that we may achieve in our time and for all time the ancient vision of peace on earth, goodwill toward men. That must always be our goal, and the righteousness of our cause must always underlie our strength. So this was said by President Kennedy in the context of the Cold War. We are called to sub in climate change for world freedom. Digging deeper, I found out that this was the last part of the speech that he was to have given the day he was assassinated. We are on the absolute tipping point, and we ask this commission to continue the scientific and moral leadership that you have demonstrated to date in these cases, among others. The Consumers Energy gas rate case settlement, the denial of the biogas digester in Western Michigan, putting a stop to $100 million in spending on gas infrastructure. We should not be investing in any fossil fuel infrastructure. Thank you.
You next have Joe Jakubowski, and Mr. Jakubowski is coming to the mic. I just want to recognize Representative Tyrone Carter, who's here with us today. Thanks for being here, Representative. Serves as the Assistant Democratic Leader in the State House and here in Detroit. Thanks for being here. Mr. Jakubowski.
I really appreciate you guys holding this meeting in the Detroit area. This is really good. We got a lot of water around here too, and a lot of effort, around the environment that go on. So we're glad you're here. Couple comments. Basically, it's really my disdain for the energy complex itself. Line 5 is a perfect example. They're taking a line from Vladimir Putin, and see what he's doing with the pipeline and how he's using it as a card. I mean, we got the same kind of thing going on here. Everything's being done behind the scenes. Governments aren't respected. The people aren't respected. Same thing. I didn't know somebody mentioned about DTE too. I mean, I'm just going to throw out a comment about DTE. We should look at taking the utility companies and turning them into co-ops so the people can get back their energy. I mean, I'd like to have a little more visibility around, where they spend their money, lobbyists, advertising, that sort of thing. I mean, it's a monopoly. I mean, that's how they operate. It's not for the people. And we gave that away. We gave it away, but we can get it back. I spend a lot of time on Detroit metro area, on Belle Isle, and up in the UP as well. So when I cross the Mackinac Bridge, I look down in the straits and I know that pipeline's down there. And it should be shut down. You know, and it's, the big thing to me is there's no accountability. The company that runs it, they have disdain for our government, our elected officials. I mean, they're playing the game. They're using all the money. They're using it to work behind the scenes. You don't hear much. You don't hear the truth of what's happening. And it's not even an American company. And how much of that energy even is used in the United States versus being processed over in Canada. So I just had to get it off my chest. I could have got on a Zoom call, but since you guys are in Detroit, I had to come down. So I'm glad you're here. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. I forgot to announce that Dale Klein is on deck. So Dale Klein, you're up now, and on deck is Rafael Omokinka.
Thank you, commissioners, for taking public comments down here in Detroit. This is a little closer to my home, but about halfway to Lansing. I'm a DTE customer and live at 2694 Independence Lane in Heartland, Michigan. And I have a solar installation from about 2011. And there's some handouts that I left. They're probably too much to look through right now, but I will try to summarize. As part of the rate making cases, the utilities are supposed to show, here's the existing rates, here's what we propose. And they've done that with most of them. And I see in their Exhibit A16, approximately 285 in the big long document, they compare D111, which is the time of use rate for everyone, which would be shuffled on to most people. And they compare very clearly before and after costs for a whole range of customers. For D1.12, which is the new mandatory non-optional rate for new solar customers, they don't show any comparison between a previous, if you were on the old rate and then you get on this new rate, they don't show any of that. They show some examples like up to 6 kilowatt of the service level, but the service level is really endless. It depends on what you have. And most houses, like a 200 amp service times 240 volts, it's like 48 kilowatts. So if you just turn on everything in your house, you can easily go way above the 9 kilowatt level where they list the chart at. So the first page of this is also from DTE. They have a calculation spreadsheet. If you Google DTE Rider 18 calculator, you find the spreadsheet that shows on the left two sections here is without solar based on your consumption. And you only have to enter a few things, just your inflow, outflow, and your generation. And then if you are on Rider 18, so this is the current rate system. And then I added simply the next two sections to the right is if you are a new solar customer and you get forced onto D112 and you have the LNP based outflow compensation, which is like half or less of the current compensation, that's where you'd be. And then the right-hand one is if you're an existing solar customer and you're allowed to stay on D1 and you only have the proposed LNP value. But there's no guarantee that next year or next 2 years or whatever, DT doesn't come back and say, oh no, the rest of the solar customers need to go on to D1.12. So I don't buy the fact that they would propose it only for new people. 15 seconds left, wow. So on the second sheet is my calculation based on my usage of these different scenarios. So you can look on the right-hand side, a reasonable baseline would be the line number 6. If you didn't have solar and you had my current consumption, the annual usage would be $1,100. Then if you were put on D112 and you installed solar, you're probably going to pay several thousands of, maybe tens of thousands of dollars to provide that. Your cost, if you fell into the 6 kilowatt, under 6 kilowatt demand service level, then you'd pay $1,200. Now that is more, and you're using way less from the grid. You're providing outflow during peak times, sunny during the day is when peak is. And if anything, you're going to use more off peak. So I'll leave it there. This is clearly not beneficial to solar and does not align with all of the other goals that we've heard of before. So thank you very much.
We have Rafael Mojica and then on deck, Tom.
Good afternoon, Commission. Thank you for hosting a public hearing or a public meeting here in Detroit. That's greatly appreciated. My name is Rafael Mojica and I live in Detroit, and I represent a small but rather scrappy organization called Solidarity. We represent a collective of residents that live mainly in frontline and very marginalized communities like Detroit, Highland Park, Hamtramck, that are standing to be the most deeply affected by extractive energy policies that are being delivered by DTE. And as I said, I appreciate that you are holding a publicly accessible public comment section here in Detroit, but we really wish that you took it a step further. We recently submitted a proposal to hold public hearings surrounding the case U2020836. That is in regards to an energy rate case that DTE has been put forward through a proposal to increase residents' rates. And we feel that that was in response to a great need of the lack of accessibility and transparency when it comes to these behind closed door issues. Thankfully, to a partnership that we have, with a legal clinic, we have the resources to be able to challenge these extractive proposed policies from companies like DTE, but not everybody does. Not everybody has that access to the legal space. And that means that they don't have access to public spaces as well. Public spaces that are being proposed as public spaces, but not are actually being held as such. That's why we wanted to hold a public hearing to bring out into the light the extractive policies of DTE. But I do want to speak on the actual case itself. Back in November of 2021, DTE Energy asked the MPSC to increase electricity rates by $388 million per year. The vast majority of that is being burdened by residents. They want another $233 million for Michigan's homes and families every single year, so they can give an additional $283 million to DTE's shareholders every single year. The reason why we feel so confident in making that statement is because within this IRP, they are not showing any plans of making any comprehensive changes to the quality of their services by transforming their infrastructure in communities like Detroit, Hamtramck, and Highland Park. This follows a pandemic year in which DTE Energy made record profits off of residential ratepayers. DTE Energy caused major blackouts and reliability problems back in the summer of last year. And DTE Energy shut off power at incredible rates as soon as moratoriums were lifted. This issue was covered by an article that was written by ProPublica that lays it out in full and great detail of the extent of the damage that they did to our communities during a critical year of suffering. How will this impact our bills, our families, and our communities? Rate increases by almost 9%. That means our costs will go up. This is happening during a time when the community of Detroit and Hamtramck and Highland Park are suffering the greatest hot levels that you can imagine when it comes to energy burden. A large portion of residents' household incomes are going towards paying their energy bills. That means that they're going to have to choose whether they're going to be able to pay for their medication for that month, or when it comes to paying for their rent, or when it comes to paying for their health care. And they don't have any say when it comes to how they build their budget. But yet, in response to that, DTE wanted to create a prepaid program that was saying that you need to manage your budgets better when they can barely make any kind of coverage of their costs when it comes to basic necessities in their lives. I will wrap it up. We need you to reject this case. We need you to start holding corporate accountability to DTE. We do appreciate the improvement of the working relationship between organizations like ours and the MPSC, but we want to make it better. We want to make this governable board that has been appointed by the governor in a public space to start serving the public. We will work with you to do that, but you need to come and meet us where we are at. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Tom Regan and then Luke, I think it's Dicklum, but I'm going to be wrong. Mr. Regan?
Hi, thank you. Tom Regan. I live at 3126 Glenview in Royal Oak. Thanks again for coming to Detroit and allowing us to speak in person. But I'm here to speak about DTE rate case U20836 to urge you to reject it. January this year, I paid about $37,000 to put some solar panels on my roof, and after the federal tax credit, it's about $26,000. And I mean, I'm not a wealthy person. I had to take a second mortgage out on my house to pay for it. Under the current rules, it's going to take 30 years to pay it off. I'm 60 years old. You know, the chances that I'll even be alive to see this thing's paid off is pretty slim. But I feel fortunate because I'm able to get a loan, and I felt like I could do my part and put some panels on my roof and help save the environmental destruction that comes from electricity generation and so on. But I made this purchase based on the current rules, and it's already a low payback for the excess power you produce, and they want to cut that even more. And when I first heard about this, I was just so angry. I said, let's go chain ourselves to the doors down at DTE. This is outrageous. And John said, no, let's go to the Public Service Commission instead. And we'll testify there. So I did that. The other part of it is this crazy demand charge, which, I mean, for God's sake, it's a fine for putting solar panels on your roof. So DTE wants to fine me about $60 a month for having solar panels on my roof. So you take this $60 a month fine and you combine it with this cut in the rate they pay for the excess power you produce, and I'm going to wind up paying DTE to have solar panels on my roof. It's absolutely outrageous when you consider distributed power generation. It prevents DTE from having to produce electricity at all. It benefits the environment. It saves people money. It's a good thing. In an ideal state, we'd have 0% loans available to any entity that had a roof where it would pay for itself to have solar panels. And the notion that we're letting this private corporation destroy the incentives for solar energy, to me, it's just outrageous. But please reject that rate case. Thank
you. And then we have Rebecca Harris on that.
Hi, my name is Luke Dicko. I am currently a resident of Oak Park, Michigan. I was born and raised in Commerce Township, Michigan. I've lived in Michigan for 27 years in my 29 yease. I'm here to please ask you to reject Enbridge's proposed tunnel pipeline. Like many Michigan residents, I was appalled to learn that there was an oil tunnel running under the Straits of Mackinac, where if you pay attention, every single river at some point flows into the Great Lakes. It's our source of life. Everything that we have in Michigan is pretty much dependent on one of the 5 Great Lakes. I am also an avid fly fisherman. I'm 4th generation of Michiganders to fish in my family in this region. And Enbridge has already proven that it cannot be trusted with the Kalamazoo Oil Spill that happened in 2010. Though that was catastrophic and was for a large part brushed under the radar by the media. This company is valued at least $75.6 billion, according to who you ask. This company has tried to say that we should be the ones who should be responsible for coming up with a solution to this problem, but that is totally and 100% their responsibility. They've blatantly rejected Governor Whitmer's executive orders to shut down the line because corporate billionaires do not play by the same rules that the rest of us do. So, like I said before, it is really up to Enbridge to find a solution to this problem, not the citizens of this great state. Thank you.
Apologies for asking your name.
Okay.
Rebecca Harris, and then Bruce Gill.
I'm Rebecca Paris. I'm 22 years old and I'm from Livingston County, Michigan. And last year I discovered that my whole life I've lived above the pipeline responsible for the 2nd largest inland oil spill ever. In fact, I lived in a low-income neighborhood that shares a property line with an Enbridge station where the gas and oil pipelines that make up Live 78 split. In Marshall, Michigan, 12 years ago today, July 26, 2010, an estimated 1 million gallons of crude oil spilled from Line 78 into a major tributary of the Kalamazoo River. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I apologize. It's my phone is. Into a major tributary of the Kalamazoo River, resulting into 35 miles of the Kalamazoo River being contaminated. Enbridge is responsible for that spill, the second largest inland oil spill ever. Enbridge is also responsible for the largest inland oil spill. On March 3rd in 1991 in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, an estimated 1.7 million gallons of crude oil spilled from Line 3 into a major tributary of the Mississippi River. Out of sheer luck, there was an 18-inch thick ice covering the river, avoiding major contamination, but not all. I was 10 years old when the Kalamazoo spill occurred, but with all the water insecurities the state has had, I wonder if the water I drink, the lakes I swim in, and the farmlands that I drive past are safe. And despite Line 5 not being on the agenda, at least at the last meeting, this committee reopened the case regarding Line 5 operating. So on the 12th year anniversary of the Kalamazoo River oil spill that Enbridge is responsible for, I came here to speak against Enbridge and Line 5. Enbridge has a long and notorious history of violating and destroying water and land, not just in Michigan, but all over North America. From 1996 to 2014, 18 years, Enbridge had reported 1,276 spills amounting in 9,423,708 million gallons of oil across North America due to repeated, willful, reckless behavior, negligence, and gross negligence on the part of Enbridge. Enbridge said that there's a 1 in 1 million chance of a rupture of Line 5 in the Straits of Mackinac, but those odds aren't actually very good. Winning the Mega Million lottery is 1 in 303 million, and an average of 10 people win that a year, despite how improbable. So if 1 in 303 million can happen an average of 10 times a year, how many times can 1 in 1 million happen in a year? They say that a tunnel will prevent any spill into the Straits of Mackinac, but that's only to hide the visibility of an oil spill on the surface. A spill into the concrete tunnel under the Straits of Mackinac will still leak into the Great Lakes water basin. My case against Line 5 doesn't start or end with the very high and imminent probability of a disaster in the Straits of Mackinac, because it isn't the only major spill risk Line 5 poses to the Great Lakes. In its almost 70-year lifespan, Line 5 has already spilled 33 times, amounting in over 1 million gallons of oil spilled along its route into the Great Lakes water basin. Line 5 carries 23 million gallons of unrefined tar sand oil, the dirtiest fossil fuel, across 645 miles of Michigan. From Superior, Wisconsin, all the way back to St. Clair, across the St. Clair River to Sarnia, Ontario. Along the way, the pipeline crosses through the Straits of Mackinac, indigenous tribal land, pristine natural areas, farmland, valuable freshwater resources, including 400 rivers, streams, and wetlands. Amongst that, Line 5 poses 3 major spill risks into Lake Superior, 3 major spill risks into Lake Michigan, and 2 major spill risks into Huron. I rest my case. Please shut down Line 5. I do not want to see an oil spill in my lifetime.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Falk. I'm here to comment on DTE case 20836. I live in Rochester Hills, and I had a rooftop solar system since July of 2019, and I come before you to oppose DTE's proposal rate hike on several grounds. First, a personal story about my installation and how DTE delayed full implementation for 2 months. My system was one of the first to include a battery backup, an option that cost me $10,000. DTE delayed our being able to use our system for 2 months because they would not approve the system interconnect due to the battery system. And I presume the fact that having a battery would allow us to capture more of our energy for our system produced and deny DTE the ability to make profits from our excess power. Our system was only able to be utilized because I alerted a reporter to look into the story. After only one phone call from a reporter, a DTE technician arrived at my home the following Monday morning at 8 a.m. I say all this to point out that DTE is fighting the implementation of distributed power generation and paying below market rates for power sent back to the grid to discourage a larger percentage of residents of the state of Michigan from generating their own power instead of purchasing it from DTE. Quoting from the MPSC's own website, the mission of the MPSC is to serve the public by ensuring safe, reliable, and accessible energy and telecommunication services at reasonable rates. I'd like to make the case that if the commission approves this rate increase, they are allowing the monopolistic power of DTE to continue to the detriment of ratepayers and our planet. DTE's proposal is currently profiting off the power being generated by distributed generation by only paying solar producers half the retail rate, and is proposing to lower even further. And they are trying to add 2 new changes that will further deteriorate the financial case for distributed generation. If the commission approves this new rate structure, DTE is so generously willing to allow the cap on the percentage of distributed power to increase from 1% to 3%. Be still my heart. The Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association has submitted information that extra solar energy produced by distributed generation allows DTE to run their solar plants less, which means DTE saves more money than the wholesale price. GLREA has also pointed out that distributed generation outflow provides capacity to the DTE grid. It sounds like a commercial for GLREA, but they've also made the case that distributed generation outflow avoids the using the transmission system. The outflow credit should be the full power supply, including transmission costs, while it is currently set to the power supply rate minus the transmission cost. As I mentioned, the mission of the MPSC is to serve the public by ensuring safe, reliable, accessible energy. I would propose that compensating residential customers that install solar panels at the full rate falls under the mission of the MPSC of providing services at reasonable rates. It is my hope that the commission will also consider completely eliminating the cap on distributed generation installations and allow the burgeoning solar industry in Michigan to continue to thrive with the certainty that it will not be impacted by the cap that DTE is asking the commission to keep in place. Michigan needs good paying jobs that can't be exported to other countries, and the solar industry is supplying thousands of those jobs. Based on current estimates, Michigan will hit its current cap on solar installations in 2023. And if that were to occur, the solar industry in Michigan would be destroyed overnight. The planet is literally on fire. We need to do everything we can to mitigate the effects of climate change by encouraging renewable energy sources, not looking out to protect an energy monopoly's profits. I urge you to reject DTE's request as currently structured and act on behalf of the residents of the state of Michigan. Eliminate the cap and raise the rate that solar customers are compensated for their power. Thank you for your time.
Up next, we have John Woodward and then Kathleen Carlson. Woodward.
Hello. Thanking everyone for being here today. First and foremost, my name is John Woodward. I live on Anishinaabe territory in Detroit, Michigan. I'm here to remind anyone who has forgotten that there's no economy without water, there are no jobs without water, and there is certainly no life. Because our survival depends on clean drinking water, I'm very relieved by your recent decision to deny Enbridge's current tunnel proposal by asking for more information. That was a huge relief, major anxiety on that day. I'm still tormented by the reality that those pipes are in the ground at this moment carrying heavy crude oil through a dilapidated pipeline 20 years past its original intended expiration date, carrying over twice its original intended pressure in the most environmentally sensitive and significant water sources in the world. Okay, I'm still tormented by that reality. There's no reason for that pipeline to continue being in the ground. There's no viable future if that pipeline ruptures and contaminates the greatest freshwater source in the world. That is the safe haven for our species on this planet, moving into an epic of environmental catastrophe that we have already set into motion. It's not that there's no hope and no future, but it is going to be astronomically more difficult if we contaminate that water. It is the most important thing to a viable future. Nothing, absolutely nothing is more important. So whatever tools you guys are using, I applaud you. Do what you need to do to get that pipeline out of the ground. If there's any genuine consideration of further information from Enbridge, that's ridiculous. They cannot be trusted. They are criminal, terrorist organization. So I'm just really hoping in my heart that you guys are being strategic and doing what you need to do, and you're not genuinely here to entertain their lies and their disregard for all of our lives here in this room. So as I close, let's all please remember that everyone's life in this room depends on that water. Okay? Let's remember that the lives of future generations, of all of our grandchildren, all of our family, everyone we love, everything's to come depends on that water. Okay? And let's please remember that any hope for a viable future, it all lies on that water. So it's the most important thing. Please do what you can, and sending my gratitudes to you for doing that difficult work. I know it's hard, you're up against a Goliath, but we're here with you, and I will stand with you till the last day until I die to protect that water, because it is our future.
We have Kathleen Carlson and then Mdhhs Renee.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Carlson and I live here in Detroit on Anishinaabe land. Thank you for the reminder, John. I'm a public health professional, a world traveler, and an activist. At this point, everyone's aware of climate change and fewer people are denying it. 1 month ago, I was traveling across West Africa. As I waited for my plane in the Gambia, an interview with youth climate activists aired on the TV. As I crossed the border from Sierra Leone to Liberia in a shared taxi, the radio talked of drought and famine decimating communities in East Africa, including an area in Uganda where one of my graduate school classmates is from. Around the world, the devastating effects of climate change are being seen. More often than not, the people who are affected first are those that make the smallest footprint. As a leading developed country in the world, we have a responsibility to make decisions that will mitigate future disaster that reaches beyond our state and our country's borders. My trip to West Africa was incredible, but it was also intense and uncomfortable. When I got back, I needed to decompress. I did this by visiting Lake Huron and Lake Superior last week. The clear water and beautiful beaches helped me center myself, and I hope I can continue to do so for myself and others for years to come. It saddens me to know that this is threatened by the proposed Line 5 tunnel. With all the incredible new, greener, and safer technology available to us, building new pipelines is completely illogical. It is not in the public's interest. As climate concern grows, the use of fossil fuels will surely lose further interest over the coming years, making this project a poor financial investment. Michigan needs infrastructure improvements that set us up for a greener, healthier, and more just future. I thank the commissioners' care in considering the topic of the Line 5 tunnel project. I implore the commissioners to reject the request to expand its pipeline into a new tunnel through the Great Lakes.
We have next Mdhhs Renee and then Shmikia Nicholas.
Good afternoon, good commissioners. My name is Corzetta Renee, and I live in Redford, Michigan, and I'm here representing the Defend Black Voters Coalition. As you know, the Defend Black Voters Coalition is here to take back our power. Michiganders suffer the highest electric rates in the Midwest and the worst power outages because our regulators and our lawmakers have too long worked for the utilities and not for the people. Now, those same two utility companies that take our money every single month and can't keep our electric power on are giving our money to extremist politicians that are trying to take the political power of Detroiters, and this won't stand. We are taking back our power, and it starts by making sure that our public officials are working for us. And you can show us that you're working for the people by, one, denying DTE and Consumers Energy another rate increase this year while the people are hurting and utilities are coming off of windfall profits. And two, by holding public hearings on these two rate cases as a general practice. Now, commissioners, we appreciate that the commission has asserted that it values community engagement, and we do really appreciate you coming to Detroit. But the people were not born yesterday. Speaking at the end of a public meeting is not the same as an official public hearing on the rate case. We asked for an official public hearing for the DTE rate case so we could have a meaningful process to get our voices on record in a way that you have to engage with in your decision to raise our rates. And you said no. And not because you can't, but simply because you don't. So which side are you on, Regs? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, Regs? Which side are you on? There were 3 regulators who wanted to stay woke, but they declined to hear the people, chose not to rock that boat. So tell me, what side are you on, Regs? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, Regs? Which side are you on? Tell me, can the people take an even bigger bill? Or will these regulators act or take the sleeping pill? I said, which side are you on, Regs? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, Regs? Which side are you on? Now here in the Motor City, we can't pay another dime. So how about the regulators decide to grow a fine? Tell me, which side are you on, Regs? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, Regs? Which side are you on? Welcome it, please. Please tell us, what will it be? Will you decide to hold public rate case hearings when it comes to DTE and Consumers Energy to hear the people? It's not a rhetorical question.
All right, so we typically don't respond to questions. I will in this case, because you sang. We have said, you know that. I think when you're trying to figure out how best to do this engagement, and it's it's something that we haven't done a lot. This is the first time that we've had a meeting outside of Lansing since I joined. I think it goes back a lot further than that. We have done and are planning to continue to do public hearings on the long-range planning cases, including for DTE. We had one a couple of years ago downtown. They are expected to file in October and planning to do one there. We have heard in terms of that the rate cases are as important, maybe more so in terms of we've never, as far as I know, had it in public hearing. That doesn't, no, it doesn't. And I think it's something that we're actively considering, and we're trying to figure out how to balance sort of the bandwidth and but we do hear they want to go back. It's fairly late in the process on this one. The briefs were filed literally yesterday. Doesn't mean that it's done, but it is fairly late. So I think we're trying to figure out what to do in this case, and I think we're trying to figure out how we can do better in terms of public engagement on a going-forward basis as well. And so I want to sort of make room for the other commissioners if you want to respond more than that, but so. Well, thank you. Sorry,
So I think we need to take this back and see if there's more that we can do in this particular case. I think on a going forward basis, we want to do more, and this isn't a one-off that we're here. But sort of where we are in this case, it is pretty late. It doesn't mean that we couldn't find a way to do it, and it certainly doesn't mean that we can't do it going forward. I think that was the sort of eye-opening thing for all of us, is that we have held public hearings on long-range planning cases because we thought it was really important to get public input on those long-range electricity plans. What we're hearing is, what I said before, is that it's as important to get that input on rate cases because of the immediate impact. So I think we're trying to figure it out, and I think we want to be partners in that.
Bet she has more song.
I know, because that doesn't sound like an answer. It sounds like maybe we'll talk about it. So I don't know. Which side are you on, Ray? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, Ray? Which side are you on? Now, commissioners, we're going to let you sit here and do what it is you have to do, but we are going to go out here and have a press conference about the same issue that we have been bringing to you over and over again while we leave you to decide which side you're on. Thank you.
Thank you.
I said, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I don't know, Shamiki, if you're still here, or if my guess is that she's part of the press event. But Shamiki and Nichols, I do have the opportunity for you to speak if you'd like to. Okay, is there anybody else here who would like to make public comment in person before we go to the phones? Okay, I know that we do have a couple of people who have expressed a desire to provide public comment. We're needing to do some things with the AV equipment in order to make that happen, and our
very high tech
IT team is on it. So first up will be Debbie Fisher, and second, Maya Aronoff. Debbie Fisher, if you're on, you can press
Hello,
*6 to unmute.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Okay, great. My name is Debbie Fisher, and I'm the Executive Director of Hope Village Revitalization, a community-controlled, community-driven nonprofit organization serving the Hope Village neighborhood in North Central Detroit. I apologize, I'm not able to be there in person, but Wednesday afternoon is our Hope Village Farmers Market Day. So I did want to provide comment on the DTE rate case. I think the number is U20836. A little bit more background about our organization. We envision a sustainable, equitable, healthy neighborhood with a high quality of life for all. Our neighborhood's approximately 95% Black, and the median household income is less than $23,000 annually. We've been impacted by systemic racism and lack of access to opportunity. Within the neighborhood, there are 23 churches, 75 businesses, 2 charter schools, and many nonprofits who provide a range of social services. We've developed a plan to install community solar on several vacant apartment buildings in Detroit as part of the plan to renovate these buildings and place them back in use as highly affordable housing serving the neighborhood. The proposed distributed generation rules substantially disadvantage projects like ours and would essentially deprive our neighborhood of the ability to move forward with community solar, despite the benefit to the community in terms of reliability, climate improvement, and many more aspects. So we're writing to oppose the requested increase in rates also that are being requested by DTE. In the past few years, we've witnessed increasing breakdowns in service while our rates are going up. The burden that DTE is placing on households in Detroit is neither fair nor just, and its opposition to community solar projects is also unjust, both from an ecological and a cost reduction standpoint. We serve a community struggling with unaffordability and unreliability of energy every day, and as a community development organization, we further struggle with the impact that dangerous and unreliable infrastructure has on our community's ability to realize beneficial development. And DTE's plans to delay modernization of infrastructure in our communities by over a decade continues a legacy of structural racism and economic inequality. Furthermore, it impedes the visions of the many Detroit communities like ours that have pursued the benefits of clean energy and electrification to reduce health harm on our communities, build community wealth, and encourage clean and healthy economic development. So we are asking the Commission to reject the efforts to foist on our community the cost of upgrading the infrastructure that DTE has failed to adequately maintain, while paying out lavish executive compensation, steadily increasing their dividends and stock prices to promote shareholder value. We thank you in advance for your consideration, and we specifically ask the Commission for the following: to reject completely the unjust increase in residential rates and require DTE to furnish a plan to catch up on basic maintenance. We work without increasing the present affordability crisis. Number 2, to require DTE to complete the infrastructure equity analysis that they committed to, provide census tract data on reliability and infrastructure voltage, and furnish a plan for expeditiously bringing Detroit and all other areas served by the archaic 4.8 kilovolt infrastructure up to modern standards. And 3, reject DTE's punitive measures against local clean energy initiatives, including their changes to solar outflow, new fixed fees, and mandatory rate for distributed generation customers, and require DTE to do one of 2 things: either A, develop a true community solar grant program or shared solar program, sometimes known as solar gardens, to address the physical and financial barriers of going solar for those who do not own their own home, or 2, invest in an innovative pilot program in our neighborhood to put rooftop solar on 500 low-income houses in the next 2 years and measure the benefit to the grid and to the customers. Lastly, we call on DTE to evaluate racial and economic inequities in this most central part of their business, the provision of energy service, and prioritize investments that address those inequities in Detroit and throughout their service territory. And I thank you so much for the opportunity to give you comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Maya Aronoff, I think we have you next. Maya Aronoff. Oh, it says give Maya a minute. Maya, I know that you're calling in. If you are on. Oh, okay. Okay, is that you, Maya? I think Ms. Aronoff is calling in. And Ms. Aronoff, if you're on, I think you're probably still calling in, but you may have to press *6 to unmute. Oh. Ms. Aronoff, is that you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. I'm a resident of Mason, and I'm calling in to make a comment kind of uniting the discussions around the DTE rate hike and the Line 5 issue. And I think everyone has said their points much better than I could, and I've said a lot of things in the past about why I think reconstructing a Line 5 tunnel under the Mackinac Straits is a terrible idea for Michigan's future. And a lot of people have put much more eloquently than I can why allowing DTE to take advantage of customers and cap our capability to have energy sovereignty and distributed energy is a terrible idea for Michigan's future. But I kind of wanted to unite those discussions because I'm really listening to our communities in this state screaming desperately that we are literally in our last chance to put people over profit in terms of environmental justice, in terms of our energy system. We're in our last chance to choose the community over corporations. And in both of these situations, we have people saying, I can't pay my bills. My electricity is going out. I would like to transition to renewable solar energy so that I can control my own energy future. We have people saying, I don't want to drink oil. I don't want to lose my fishing and tourism industries to a dangerous pipeline with a corporation that has a horrible safety track record. And in both these instances, the corporations are asking you to put aside the voices of the people and to, despite every action they've shown in the past as to their putting profit over those people, to trust them yet again. And in both instances, I'm asking you, don't trust these corporations. Trust the people who've been on the receiving end of their behavior. Trust the people who are experiencing the impacts of these policies. And in both cases, we can see this as an economic justice issue, so a racial justice issue, where we have Mackinac Straits named after Indigenous people, where the Indigenous tribes are unanimously saying this is a terrible idea. And the state could either listen to them or compound the injustice that's been done to them historically. And we have our majority Black city of Detroit, where on the one hand, we're asking these communities to somehow power our renewable transition, somehow revive their work in factories and all of these things, and at the same time putting in a massive economic burden on these communities and getting nothing in return in terms of DTE rates and energy policy. So for economic justice, for racial justice, for energy justice, for all of our children's future, I think the decision in both these cases is really clear about who this commission should believe when it comes to the consequences of these proposals. We know best because we've lived these experiences of what happens when we trust these corporations. Trust us over the fancy words and the absolutely ginormous proposals that they put forward. It's a smokescreen. We know what's going to happen. It's what always. We can make a different decision. We can go in the direction of energy sovereignty, of a clean energy future, of solar and wind, and Michigan can lead the way in that, as opposed to siding with these same corporations again and again and again. That's all because everyone else has detailed it so beautifully. But that's what I have to say here today, and I hope that this commission will trust the people over these corporations.
Thank you, Ms. Aronoff. I want to see if there's anybody. I think that's all the folks we had queued up who wanted to speak. I want to see if there's anybody else who has dialed into the meeting but wasn't able to use the Microsoft Teams feature to add your name to the list who would like to speak at this point. Okay, we will close. We had a couple of comments written that we will add to the minutes from the meeting. We'll close the public comment period at this point. Do either of you have any announcements or?
No announcements. Just a brief comment. Thank you to our staff and our team from the MPSC for the tremendous amount of work under a pretty short time frame that we gave you in order to host this public meeting in Detroit. It is not easy. It has a lot of moving parts. And really, we sincerely thank all of you for showing up and for doing the hard work behind the scenes and making sure that we could present this opportunity for folks to speak before us today. And just thank you again to all the speakers and all those who attended our public commission meeting. We do not intend to shy away from the hard questions, are the tough issues. And this is the type of feedback and level of participation that we wanted to see from the community, and that we are very glad we had the opportunity to listen to and to experience face to face. So this has been just a really encouraging opportunity for me. And again, I just thank those who came out and took the time to participate. And again, thank our staff for all the hard work that went into organizing this session today. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I would echo that, and specifically Barb Kunkel, Lisa Police, Wanda Clavon Jones, and Mike Byrne, who had sort of formal roles. Shatina Jones, who I think I see her running around. Kyle Damon, Ben Johnson, Charlie Tidwell, and Andy Hannum, who handled all the IT and tech work. Lucy Clay at the back, helping with greeting folks and customer assistance. Matt Helms, Nairi Royal, Jennifer Brooks, Fazan Tawana, and Rika Holly-Balker. So it really did take a number of folks to help make this happen. And I think the opportunity to engage really sort of showed the importance of doing so. I also just want to very quickly highlight that we did put out, as we do each year at this time, a release earlier this week encouraging any propane customers to shop now to lock in supply for the upcoming home heating season. It's a nice day here in Detroit today, but we all know as Michiganders that winter is always just around the corner. So it's an opportunity to lock in prices, get that certainty, and often a cheaper price as we approach heating season. And with that, I think we're at the point where we can close out for today. And so our next meeting is, it's Wednesday, or it's Thursday, August 11th at 1:00 p.m. That will be back in Lansing. Is there a motion to adjourn, Commissioner Phillips?
I move to adjourn today's commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I have never been happy with that. Thanks.
Really appreciate you all coming down.
Yeah. Thank you.